So I broke my own rule and went to see Star Trek Beyond, even though I said I wasn't going to have anything to do with Star Trek anymore after the fan film guidelines came out. But whatever, people asked me to go see it, and I went to see it, and it had exactly the impact I expected it to have. It's another generic action film. Now, people are going to complain and tut and roll their eyes and go, Dave's complaining again, that's what he does. Yeah, I do. I fucking like complaining about shit that's worth complaining about, and I think this is worth complaining about because it is basically cultural vandalism of a pop culture icon. And that's I call it simple as it is. This is a cultural iconic franchise that's just getting pissed on, bastardized, and turned into a generic action franchise. And I think it's worth it. And it was a big part of my childhood and an inspiring part of my childhood. And for many people, they chose to go into science fields because Star Trek inspired them. They looked at the colorful and hopeful vision of the future and how technology and humanity would converge to build a better world. And that gave them hope. So they went and they became scientists and physicists and astronauts and everything else. Are you telling me that these current films are going to inspire people, the next generation of young kids, to do the same thing? No, they won't. These are Star Wars films. This is like a Marvel film, action hero, superhero franchise. That's all this is. The crew are basically action heroes now. The crew of the Enterprise are hanging off cliffs with one hand, getting thrown across rooms, significant distances and getting back up. Everyone's a badass. Even Uhura is able to kick the shit out of guys. Fuck. So anyway, and all the fight scenes are really up close, like every other action film, and they're shaky cameras. I can't see anything. Can you pull the fucking camera back, please? Anyway, I'll just get into this because if you enjoyed the film, fair enough, but it's not Star Trek. Have you seen an episode of Star Trek? All right, there's intellect, there's philosophy, it's cerebral. People are mostly talking about issues. And you have metaphors for social issues. We explore concepts. We have morality plays, right? We get into ethics. There's nothing. This film is completely devoid of meaning. It's totally shallow. There's nothing to explore. There's no higher concept thing. It says nothing, speaks nothing about society. It has a 2-bit philosophy that's like a couple of lines of dialogue that it thinks is meaningful. And the reason these writers haven't a fucking clue, it's just hack writing. The same dialogue I've heard a billion times. Hang on to something, hold on, I'm counting on it. A villain who has 12 lines of dialogue, no motivation other than the fact that he's the bad guy. That's it. He's the bad guy, so he's got to do bad stuff. And he's got to create explosions for people to run away from for 2 hours. It opens with Kirk negotiating some peace treaty thing or some sort of integration of one alien race into the Federation, something like that. And he's making some offering to these aliens who turn out to be this size, and they're like little teddy bears. And they all start attacking on him and jumping on him. And I'm like, okay, so this is a kids movie now. This is a kids film. We've got CGI teddy bears jumping on Kirk, and it's done for laughs. He beams aboard the Enterprise, and the Enterprise is in the film for about, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes. That's about it. And he gives this captain's log where he's walking around the ship, and he's talking about the difficulties and hardships of being in space and the effects of it on his crew. And I thought, okay, this is interesting. You've got some interesting concepts. And then he sits down and he has a drink with Bones, and he talks about whether he's right for the captain's chair. And he's talking about whether he's going to live up to his father and all this stuff. And I'm like, stop, can you stop with this stuff? The first film, he was the reluctant captain, then he got the captain's chair. The second film, it got taken off him because he was arrogant or something. In the third film, he's questioning himself. This is so un-Kirk, all right? Kirk wasn't perfect. Sometimes his ego was something he had to overcome. But like in Star Trek 1, the guy would literally push his wheelchair-bound grandmother down the fucking stairs to get the fucking captaincy of the Enterprise off Decker. Will you fucking stop with this, oh, look at the reluctant, conflicted hero. This isn't Kirk. This guy is a fucking baby, all right? So anyway, he's got this apparent problem with himself being the captain, and simultaneously Spock gets news that Ambassador Spock has died, and there's a kind of a touching tribute to Leonard Nimoy in that as well. And he's thinking about going back to New Vulcan, and leaving Uhura. An awful relationship, was just a fucking abortion of an idea. And so he's thinking about doing that. And so, look, they're setting stuff up. They're setting stuff up that's going to be at the beginning of the film. And throughout the film, these characters are going to learn stuff about their problems. And by the end, they'll resolve it. And then they're going to like realize what they should do, right? They're going to go on a journey. No, nothing like that. Kirk's problem with, well, should I still be captain? Could I accept a desk job as an admiral? Just totally arbitrary. He has no problem being a captain. He's larger than life. He's large and in charge. He is absolutely captain material throughout the entire film. He just gets on with things, gives orders, does captainy stuff. But for some reason, because we need some sort of inner struggle for the captain, which is completely artificial and arbitrary, we just have to just throw that dialogue at him. And then at the end of the film, he figures it out, which we know he's going to do anyway. The beginning of the film, this conflict within Kirk is mentioned, and at the end of the film, nothing happens on screen that relates to his journey whatsoever. He learns nothing from the story or for the challenge that he's facing. He learns nothing from the villain, because there's nothing to learn from the villain. Nothing. So at the end of the film, there's no callback. There's no fulfilling kind of payoff. Nothing. So the Enterprise gets attacked by what is described by, and this is how low bar the technical language has gone now in Star Trek, as a swarm of bees in space. And it takes about 10 minutes for the ship to be completely disintegrated, even though large sections of it are still operable while it's falling apart. People escape in the escape pods. The bad guy comes on board. His name is Crawl. It's Idris Elba, but behind a shit ton of latex and CGI. And the ship crashes on a planet where he is basically trying to get his hands on an artifact to build a weapon. He needs this artifact to build this weapon in order to attack the Federation, because, wouldn't you know it, it's another revenge story. So a super weapon and a revenge story from a bad guy. That has been the story of the last 5 films, including this one, for fuck's sake, right? So there's zero originality again. So they land on the planet and they're all kind of separated. So the opening like hour of the film is basically Kirk trying to get his crew back who are being held captive by the bad guy in some camps. And so all I'm watching is, I've seen the Enterprise explode. Action, insane amounts of action, punctuated by a few quips and some few jokes here and there. No character moments, nothing to think about. We're just moving along at this rapid pace, rapid fire dialogue for the ADHD generation, of course, because you can never just stop and think about anything. Oh my God, we lose the audience. No, the reason they move along at this rapid pace is because if they didn't, you'd stop and go, hang on, there's a shit ton of plot holes here. Hang on, there's no story here. So they have to make it seem like there's a story and there's more going on by, baffling and bamboozling you with just like stimulation, constant fucking stimulation. So it just spent an hour just driving around quarries on a bike, dicking around, firing guns, punching people, running from explosions, creating explosions, and then they get their crew back and they have there's an older ship marooned on the planet called the USS Franklin, and it's like an NX class from Archer's era. They use this very old ship to get off the planet. So the bad guy is going to attack this big space station where millions of people live. It's like this massive big city in space called Yorktown. Why is he doing this? No reason given. He's just a bad guy and he does bad things. He kills people. That's what he does. He's a bad guy and he's insane. And it's insanity, madness. It's the laziest motivation for a villain ever in Hollywood. It's just like, oh, well, that's it. We don't need to come up with another excuse for him. We don't need to think about his background. He's a bad guy. He just does bad things. Oh, okay, that's okay. So he goes off with his swarm of bees in space, and Kirk and co have this old knackered old ship that they fly into space. And there's one scene in the film where they're on the bridge of this USS Franklin and they're just like rapid fire dialogue everywhere. Like they're come up with this solution to this problem that part of this plan. And one person, Chekhov speaks, then another person speaks as Sulu, then Uhura, then Spock, then McCoy, then Kirk, and it's like one after the other. They're speaking as one. And you're like, well, stop. This is not how plans come together, okay? Stop. Just can we just think about this for a second? Can we have a pause in the movie and just reflect on what's happening, what we're doing, and why we're doing it? No, couldn't do that. It gets even more insulting. They defeat the swarm of bees with rock music. And I shit you not, right? The swarm of bees, space B ships are defeated by disrupting their frequency using a rock song that they play, and they're playing it in space, and the ship is like flying around on a wave of these things where they're exploding, and you're like, this is Star Trek. This is happening in a Star Trek film. Long story short, Kirk goes on the space station, has a fight in 0G with the bad guy, and by the way, turns out the bad guy is actually human. For no reason he turned into an alien using some sort of alien technology left behind on the planet that he could suck the life out of people to stay alive, but he slowly became an alien and changed his name. I don't know. And basically the ship used to be his. He used to be a Mako, which is a reference to Enterprise during the Xindi War. And he was a military man. He was given a captaincy for no reason. I don't know how, because he speaks like a fucking retard. And he slowly starts to become Idris Elba again. He slowly starts to become human. And his whole fucking beef is humanity and the Federation shouldn't be united because unity is a sign of weakness, right? This is just like, we're stronger together. We can defeat barbarism with hugs, right? I'm sorry, but when your enemy in society is vicious, you have to be equally as vicious to defeat him. Now, that doesn't make you the same as your enemy. You have to become somewhat like them in order to defeat them, okay? Now, we're not in any way like that in the West. We're incredibly weak, right? This is what we're seeing now, the feminization of politics. So it's like, we just need to just love each other and be united. It's just fucking it's a horseshit message. The idea of, if you kill Hitler, oh my god, if we kill Hitler, we become Hitler. No. If we went back in time and killed Hitler, it wouldn't be like, oh, we killed Hitler, what do we do now? I guess we better go fucking be fascists and kill Jews? No. But the point is, the good guys are the last to pick up their weapons and the first to put them down. So some people have said this is like an anti-Brexit movie or some shit. It's like a pro-EU movie or whatever. But look, I don't even think the film is even that self-aware to understand that level of political intricacy. I don't really think there's that much. This is just too shallow to have that level of meaning in it. So he feels abandoned by the Federation, and he feels that just because the Federation is about unity, that's enough of a reason for him to want to go kill millions of people. It's just like, what? This is like the most slipshod, ridiculous leap in logic I could possibly imagine for a guy wanting to become an insane person and a fucking genocidal lunatic. So he has this weapon that's going to destroy the whole fucking space station, and so Kirk basically kills him, and then the film ends, and then they apparently have learned all their lessons. Spock is going to stay. He's not going to go to New Vulcan. Kirk is going to stay as captain because we knew that was going to happen anyway. There's a new Enterprise built in a time-lapse scene. It looks just as shit as the previous one, with the horrible big fucked up bulbous warp nacelles where they just bastardized one of the most beautiful ships in science fiction. And then the film ends, and that's it. That's the whole movie. And then there is a nice scene where Spock, in kind of a 50th anniversary tip of the hat, where Spock looks at a picture from Star Trek V, the original crew, and I was like, see that there? I'd rather watch Star Trek V again, and that's a terrible one, than watch this. At least that was in the original continuity, because this is completely divorced from Star Trek canon. After every other Star Trek film I've seen, even the bad ones like Insurrection, Nemesis, and they were awful, you still had something to think about. In this film, the only thing I was thinking about was, where the fuck did I park? Was it aisle yellow 17 or green 17? Which one was it? No, I think it was green 18. No, it was fucking 17, and I'm pretty sure it was green. Nope, we're in yellow. We're further down. No, we're not. It's green. It's fucking green. If I wasn't a YouTuber who was being asked by my subscribers to do a review of this, I would never think of Star Trek Beyond again. I would never even gone to see it. People wanted to see fucking Axanar more than this. Axanar, Prelude to Axanar is way better than this. They're never even going to be able to make Axanar now. Star Trek Continues is finished, most likely, because of the new fan film guidelines. No wonder. They want you to go and see this shit instead and pay for it. The fans are kicking your ass in terms of creativity, originality, and in terms of how they adhere to Star Trek in terms of its core philosophy and its themes. Like, what does that say, Paramount? What does that say about you? And it was fucking green 17, by the way. I was fucking right. So Yeah.